What's up guys, it's Kristen here today with my April wrap-up. So my history with DNFing books pre-booktube, it was an absolute rarity. It did not matter to me if I was hating the book, I just had to finish it for my own peace of mind or whatever. But as time has gone on, I've felt more comfortable with it. Obviously, there's no point in wasting my time on something that I'm not enjoying when there's so many other great books out there. But with that being said, I feel like in the month of April, it got out of hand. I was just DNFing books left, right, and center. And I don't know if it was the books I was picking or if it was my mood, probably a combination of both. But before we get into all the books that I didn't actually finish, let's start off with one major accomplishment. I finally finished Return of the King, meaning that I have now finally completed, after all of these years, The Lord of the Rings. Feels like such a weight off. If you've been watching my channel lately, you'll know that I was doing a buddy read with several other booktubers where we started in December with The Hobbit, and this was supposed to be completed in March, but somehow, yeah, it took me all through the month of April to finish it. Don't know what happened. I really enjoyed The Fellowship and The Two Towers, but it just fell apart for me with Return of the King. Funny enough, it is actually my least favorite of the films, and I always thought it was like a Peter Jackson kind of thing, like 10 different endings, and now it feels like it drags on forever and he just couldn't let it go, couldn't edit it down, but that is exactly what the book feels like. I mean, there are differences, things that the movie definitely changed, but the feeling that there were several points where there could have been an ending easily is definitely there. Of course, though, it wasn't all bad, and overall, I'm just so excited to finally have read them and now go back and rewatch the movies for the millionth time and actually be able to compare and see what they changed. So my first DNF of the month was You'll Grow Out of It by Jessie Klein. I actually requested this one from the publishers. I was very excited about it. This is her memoir of her awkward, funny childhood. I thought I was gonna get a mixture of Jenny Lawson and Amy Poehler, but no, it was nowhere near the caliber of those two. I DNF'd it after only a few chapters. It was that bad. First off, it just wasn't funny at all, and I'm pretty sure she is a comedian, so that's a big problem. But then there was an entire chapter dedicated to her talking about her hatred of baths and how she thinks it's some kind of like anti-feminist, misogynistic thing, that the reason women love baths so much and men don't is because that's the one area in the house that they're allowed to go to. Like, what the fuck? I was just sitting there reading it like, seriously? Is she joking? I can't tell. If she's being sarcastic, it was completely lost on me. And as a bath lover, I was deeply offended. The next book that I did, unfortunately, DNF, was Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson. But hold up, this was a completely different story. I did not dislike this at all. The reason I did not finish it was mainly due to the fact that I got the audiobook out from the library and I wasn't able to finish it before it's due back, because I realized with her books previously, Let's Pretend This Never Happened, which is honestly one of my favorite books, I actually prefer to read them kind of in small little doses. So with this one, I am either going to purchase the audiobook from Audible or I'm going to buy myself a physical copy, because the first half or so that I did listen to was amazing. The whole time I was just like, oh my god, yes to everything she was saying, which is also why I want a physical copy, because I just kept wanting to highlight every quote. It was so genius, the way that she talks about mental health and how it is treated in society versus how it should be. Alright, I was really cold before I started filming, so I put on this sweater, but now it's like 58,000 degrees in here. Now back to a book that I did complete, even though I skimmed through a lot of it. It was Career of Evil, the third book in the Cormoran Strike series by Robert Galbraith. I enjoyed the first two books, not completely in love with them, but obviously I like them enough to go back and read the third book, but I've always had so many problems with them. I really don't think that they're well written. Especially Career of Evil, it was just under 500 pages, and it could have easily been half the size. Main word I would use to describe them is repetitive. Oh my goodness, I don't know how many times she can make the same point over and over and over again. And there were so many subplots that I guess are supposed to be red herrings for the murder mystery, but they just feel like a waste of time. But with all that being said, I keep coming back to them because I love the characters of Cormoran and Robin and their relationship and being in London and the whole Sherlock Holmes murder mystery feel to them. And of course it ended off on this massive cliffhanger, so even though the whole time reading it I was thinking like, I don't think I'm gonna continue on, I gotta stop with this series. Now I have to read the next book, of course. Another DNF that doesn't really count is Radiance by Catherine M. Valente, because I only read the first couple chapters and it's a very unique and different story, which normally I would love, but my concentration level was just not there, and so I put it down to return to because I have read the Fairyland books. I already know that I love Valente's writing style, so this is just being put back on the TBR shelf to come to at a later date. Then the last of my DNFs was the memoir An Unquiet Mind by Kay Redfield Jemison. This is her memoir about her struggle with bipolar disorder, but at the same time she has her PhD in psychiatry and she was working in the medical field naturally at the same time that she was having relapses and being committed and trying to figure out her medication and how she dealt with all that, which I was very intrigued, and I want to learn more about bipolar disorder because I have a few family members who deal with it. The first problem was that I was listening to this on audiobook, which is funny because I always try to listen to memoirs on audiobook when they are usually narrated by the author. I think it magnifies the story by hearing it in their own voice, but unfortunately the author has an incredibly dry, monotone narration style that did not engage me from the beginning. And then getting into it, it felt more like it was about her life and her experiences in the academia than it was about the bipolar disorder, so I started to lose interest. I still may finish this one, but I would definitely pick up a physical copy of it. I feel like all I've done this entire wrap-up is complain about every single book. So let's move on to some positivity with my favorite read of the month, and it was The Stone Mattress, a collection of short stories by Margaret Atwood. I was very hesitant to read this for several reasons because I've read a lot of Margaret Atwood and I really love her, but I haven't been a fan of her newer releases. And I listened to this on audiobook, and the only audiobooks I've ever listened to have been nonfiction or more like mystery, action type books, and I don't know why I've always had in my mind that literary fiction and beautiful writing is meant to be read, and I wouldn't enjoy it as much if I listened to it. And also the fact that I've only ever read one other short story collection. I don't know why I have such an aversion to short stories and they intimidate me, but thankfully I was wrong on all accounts. This was excellent and I highly recommend the audiobook. The narrators were amazing and they added so much depth to the story. In this collection there are a few stories that are all in the same literary world and connected, but then there's other ones that aren't. But the two constant themes throughout every story are sex and death, and also the fact that every story except for one is told from the perspective of an elderly person, which reading it made me realize how few books are told from anyone's perspective beyond the age of 40. Besides the Golden Girls in all movies and TV, they're always relegated to the modern day scene in a period piece or something like that. But it was so interesting reading it and getting that perspective of what it feels like in the last years of your life and latching onto the themes of being closer to death and further from sex. The standout stories for me were definitely the first one called Alphenland and the title story. There was only one that was kind of disappointing, especially for me, because it was based off of The Robber Bride, Margaret Atwood's novel, and that's one of my favorites of her novels, and that one really fell flat for me and it didn't add anything to the original novel. So that is it for all of the books that I read, or rather did not read or did not finish in the month of April. Of course, I would love to hear your thoughts on DNFing, and hopefully you had a better reading month in April than I did, so please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you again soon. Bye!